Okay. Hi, everybody. Coach Warren here. And
Toto.
So we figured just because life outside has stopped, we shouldn't stop. And we actually had plans of doing this a couple weeks ago, or even 2 or 3 weeks ago, when all the shutdown stuff started. But I don't know, we just kind of felt like the timing wasn't right, and maybe we hadn't learned the right lessons yet, or the lessons that we were supposed to learn yet. And so when we were talking last week, or maybe this past weekend, we're like, I think I'm ready. What about you? And here we are.
That's the funny thing, because I was going to bring that up, because I think you texted me like 3 weeks ago to do it, and I said, hey, I am emotionally not ready. I feel like there's a lot of things that I need to sort out. And you were like, okay, it's totally cool. And then here's the funny thing. We tried to set this up for a week. And then today I'm having a very, very rough day. And I was going to reschedule on you. Again. I said, hey, no, there's a reason why you guys scheduled it today. Maybe you're having a tough day for a reason. And maybe you need to connect with Warren today. And this is your purpose for the day. So I kind of just took a deep breath and I sucked it up, and I'm glad we're finally doing it. And I think we're both in a better headspace than we were about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So
yeah, even more so than yesterday. Yesterday, I was definitely not in a great headspace. And I was actually taking a cue from your last post on Instagram about being gentle with yourself. And yesterday, it's not like I had a ton going on, but I just started the day very jumbled in my head and my mind, and I was really trying to organize some thoughts, and I wasn't organized, and I felt like if we tried to do this yesterday, it would not have been as successful. But we're always successful, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
true. I think we'd be more successful today than yesterday.
I agree. And now I'm in the polar opposite space, but I'm gonna make it work. It's gonna
Okay.
play to our advantage. But before we get started,
All right.
do you want to see my picture?
No. Oh my gosh. Is that you?
That's me.
Who is the girl in the back looking over your shoulder at the cake?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. She's cute though.
Yeah, but she's like looking at I want that cake. Go
And
put it back.
Oh.
Put it back. See, it totally looks like she's looking at your cake like, oh my God, I want that.
I know. These are the benefits of recording from my childhood home. So,
Nice.
Warren, if we were to get started, I want to know or we're probably going to get more deeper into it, but what is one positive that is coming directly to your mind today as we're sitting here, especially with having the day that you had yesterday? What is a positive aspect of this? Because I don't want to focus on the actual virus or the science of it, but what is one positive that you can focus on right now?
The one positive that I can focus on right now is that this isn't going to be forever. I feel like when this first started, it's almost a month now, right? When this first started about a month ago, I don't think people really could see the end or even knew how far away the end was. But even yesterday, I posted an article from the New York Times, and then there's actually been some new developments this morning about California talking about, actually starting talks about easing up on the restrictions. So that's kind of cool in the respect that it gives us kind of not a timeline, but it shows us that there is actually a light at the end of this tunnel, and that this isolation isn't going to be forever. I think sometimes when we get lost in the weeds, we just kind of get stuck in the weeds and just think, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in the weeds forever, right? But never really peeking out. This is kind of cool because I can do this on the camera. Peeking out through the weeds, and you might not even know, if you didn't peek outside the weeds, literally the way out was on the other side of the weeds. You just needed to like do that. People that are listening online right now and not watching this are not getting the full effect of this whole thing. But yeah, sorry, that's my whole thing, is I think there is an end. There will be an end to this. When that exactly will be and what will life really be after we finish this isolation, you know, who knows? But this will end and life will go on. And I like to say nowadays, we will have gotten through 100% of our worst days. This won't end us.
I love that. And the reason why I went like this is because how we were just talking about how maybe there's a reason why we were supposed to talk today. And one is I read this quote like a long time ago, and it helped me a lot during some certain times in my life. And you just reflected on that, saying that there is an end to this, because it was something like, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of every thought that comes into your head, whether it's negative or good, there's a comfort in knowing the fact that it is only going to last or take up about 4 to 5 minutes of your day. So you know that there's an end. And just knowing that that thought, no matter how negative it is only going to last for a temporary amount of time, is, even if it does last that whole time, you know that it's going to end. And so having that light at the end of the tunnel is so comforting. And I just was reading a book, or a part of the book that I started on about 10 minutes before we started this. And it was saying how you were just saying you can't see around or you can't see through. And it said half the time, a lot of our struggles were sheltering or imprisoning ourselves. And so you have to think of it. He referenced this cartoon of, you have to think of this cartoon of a person in jail, and they're behind bars and they're shaking and they're shaking and they're shaking behind these bars. But then if you take a back pan of that and you take the camera out, it's empty on the left and it's empty on the right, and you yourself are just behind the bars. And I literally just got done reading that. It's a book called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lisa something. And it's crazy that you say that, because here we are sitting behind this negativity. If we apply that to this situation, we're like this, and you're sitting behind this negativity and all these things that are impacting your life. And if we just take a step back and you look to the right and the left, you're like, well, I have a view there, I have a view there. I can just walk right out freely, but we're stuck behind that. So being able to see that light at the end of the tunnel, that's awesome. I like that a lot. I'm freaking out about how much this just tied in.
I like the idea, and I like these visuals.
Oh, so good.
If you're listening online right now on your phone, you really should watch the live one, because it's actually quite entertaining watching ourselves on the camera. Anyway,
we're both animated people, so I think it helps that we're recording it, because we're very animated.
Correct. How this will come out in editing, I don't know. But anyway, recording is cooler with when you can see the person.
It'll be good.
So yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think sometimes when we get into our problems, it is very hard to see past the weeds or past. It's like called tunnel vision, right? You just really get stuck in this, like, I'm only looking at what's in front of me and failing to see all these other things that are going on around me. So yeah, I think it's a good point. But anyway, before we move on, I just wanted to say one thing. This podcast will not be about anything COVID-19 related. This podcast will be about lessons that we've learned over the last month, or will continue to learn, hopefully. Because what we have been talking about is that this whole idea that if you don't do anything, or if you don't come up with a new game plan, if you don't learn anything, if you don't figure something out while in isolation for this, month or 2 months, like, you're really messing up, in my opinion, right? I think now is the time to learn something new. Now is the time to figure out something about yourself that maybe you didn't want to face, and we're just kind of running away from for a long time. Now is the time to do all those things that you said that I don't have time to do, because everybody got time. Nobody has no time. Does that make sense? No, that didn't make sense. Everybody has time. So
I understood.
You can't say that you don't have time right now. Everybody got time. So this is going to all be about what we have personally learned, and hopefully that will kind of inspire you guys to draw some sort of inspiration to then, if you haven't already, learn some lessons for yourself or come up with some game plan. Because when this is all over, life's not going to be the same. And I imagine a lot of people who have been kind of noodling around in their brains are coming up with a game plan for when this is all over, this is what I'm going to do. I've been doing that. I know that I have some things that I'm already like, as soon as this is all over, this is what I'm going to do. And I think if you're not doing that, well, you better get started, because you're just wasting your time. You're never going to get this time again. Hopefully. Yeah. You're not going to get this time again.
But you kind of have to think of it. The phrase that I've been using is what better time than now? You know what I mean? Because we use that as an excuse, like you just said, a lot of the time. And I said something to my brother too when I was on my way here, and I said, hey, I'm learning how to play piano. You should pick up your guitar. Let's learn something. And he said, oh, I haven't picked up my guitar in forever. Like, I don't even know if I remember how to play. And I said, what better time than now, man? What better time than now?
Agreed.
And I said this on the last video, is being gentle with yourself. And whether that's going super hard in the paint one day and then easing up on yourself the next day, hey, what better time than now to ease up on yourself, because you have time to ease up on yourself. And maybe that's what you need to come out of this with. Because I had a conversation with someone and they were saying how stressed out they were in regards to, oh, I feel like I have to optimize my time. I feel like I have to do this. And I said, hey, take a step back and think, like, maybe the thing that you need to recognize is not all the things that you have to accomplish, but all the things that you don't have to accomplish. And maybe that's the thing that you need to work on personally, because it's that idea of, I always feel like I have to be turning the page and I always feel like I have to be doing this. But maybe that's what you need to work on, is learning to slow down a little bit and not always having that feeling of having to do things. So it's a nice little balance, and everyone, and like you said, everyone has the time to recognize what that might be.
Yeah. I was talking to Danielle Jorda, Hi,
Danielle.
The only person that I've consistently seen outside of my family every week, because I'm still training her. And she was talking about how there's two types of people that are emerging. One, the people that never do anything, that are just now really, really, really bored. And now they're like, I got to do something. And then there's the people that are type A personalities and feel like they always have to be doing something and always be getting stuff done. And now they feel like, because they're stuck at home and they can't go out and they can't do things, they're feeling very unaccomplished. Like, right? I've been feeling that too. Like, man, I feel like I need to be doing more, but like, honestly, like you said, I need to maybe be okay with doing less and maybe doing more in other places or other aspects of my life. So yeah, totally. So let's move on. What other lessons have you learned?
I guess I kind of want to bring this to training and working out a little bit too, because I think that's important, and we always bring things back to that. My personal training, and this has a lot to do with my mentality, and in addition to what I'm learning, is my training has changed like drastically, because I'm usually my usual primary source of exercise is weightlifting. And that is something that I have grown to love over the past 4 years, and the thing that defines me as a person in regards to exercise and working out. And not having a barbell or plates, I've had to adapt that. And I don't want to say that I didn't make fun of people. Like, I don't want to say I made fun of people, but I kind of had this initial negative aspect of, oh my gosh, really, guys? Like, you have to go get a barbell, you have to go do this, you have to go do that. I was like, just adapt to the situation, adapt to it. Let's go, change things up. I have to do it. And then it hit me about, I think it was last week. And I said, man, I feel something missing in my soul. Like, I feel like I'm missing that feeling. Cause yeah, I'm getting a workout in yeah, I'm exercising and training, but there was just this empty pit in my heart, as ridiculous as that sounds, just from not being able to do the thing that I love. And I had to change that mentality. I said, oh wow, okay, like I kind of feel that now. And I started developing a FOMO mentality and like this fear of missing out, because, you know, I saw my friends in Tribe Barbell, they have their plates and they're training together and they're being able to lift. And I'm like, if I do one more burpee, I'm done. I'm gonna walk out the door, and I'm so sick of this. But I had to start thinking at the end of last week. I thought, hey, this is your time to focus on different things. Your cardio, I hate that word. Your endurance is going to improve. There are other things that are going to improve, and you need to change that whole mentality and be adaptable to the situation. So I'm actually really, really starting to like it, because I'm actually changing that mentality and learning, hey, there are other things that I can do to improve my strength, endurance, and be creative with it and have fun with it in ways that I never really had, quote unquote, time for before. I haven't done a handstand besides a handstand walk in Lord knows how long. And I'm a previous gymnast, and it's something that I love to do. And the other day I posted on my story, and I spent 45 minutes doing handstand holds, where when have I ever spent 45 minutes working on fun transitional handstand holds? So I think that's one thing I'm learning, is the adaptability to change that longing and that thing that I miss into something positive, and know that that's okay too, and that this particular season is okay to leave those other things on the side and just channel these other parts of my physicality, you know, to work on them and experiment with them and just have fun with them. Whereas before it was just like one thing, which isn't bad, but it's just what I loved. So, yeah. And that transition too, so I'm going on a tangent right now because I'm remembering all these things, but it was similar to, did you just catch a fly?
I'm trying to take you off your tangent and pull you back in.
Oh yeah, tangent, pull me back in, reel me back in. But yeah, it just shows your adaptability as a human, as a person. So, and that's what I'm learning, is to be adaptable and creative, which in turn has a lot to do with how much you expose yourself to. So
it's a really good point. I think adaptability is key, because in life you have to be able to adapt to all different types of situations. If you're a one-trick pony, what happens when you can no longer do that one thing, or do that one thing at the level at which you have always held yourself to, right? It happens when athletes age and they have to make that decision of whether I'm going to keep doing this, or I'm going to retire, or maybe I'm going to coach, or I'm going to try something new, right? So it happens, right? It's just the natural course of life. Like, things end so that other things can begin. But the longer you hold on to these things, right, it kind of holds space in your life that you need to free up for other things to begin. So I think adaptability is, it's something you have to learn to do, and realize that you're always going to be adapting, and it'll never end. Like, you're always going to have to adjust and go with the flow and adapt.
And you know what's funny is just having the different tools in your toolbox, like, and that applies to work, your relationships, your friendships, and working out, because I thought about this, and my brother was having a hard time kind of switching up his routine, because he's a power lifter and he's just been doing that for a year. And I said, hey, I got CrossFit, I got bodybuilding, I got all these different movements that I've been exposed to for the past 7 years that I've been training. Mm-hmm. Then I'm like, oh, let me just reach in my back pocket. Like, I know Metcons, I know bodybuilding stuff, I know conditioning stuff, like, and having that variety in my toolbox to reach out to in a time like this. And that applies to, mm-hmm. you know, work. Like, as a chiropractor, there's not going to be a one size fits all approach to each patient. There's not going to be one way I adjust every single person. And even in your relationships, when you have different friendships, you're not going to approach a friendship the same way you approach your romantic relationship or your family relationship. And having those tools just from experience is important.
It makes you a more well-rounded individual, and you're Absolutely. Able to approach and tackle different situations with different perspectives. Yeah, I think that's a great point. My turn.
Yeah, go
Kind
ahead.
of along the same lines of your adaptability. It was that kind of related to that post you tagged me in yesterday, where it was about a guy who was asked or being asked, like, how do you get motivated to work out? And like, where do you find it? And basically he said that like, it comes from in here, right? Like the motivation that I have to work out every day, it doesn't come from other people. I mean, it helps inspire and strengthen my motivation, but the drive and the desire to keep working out, to keep pushing, to try something new, that's an internal desire that if you're not used to it, like it's something you still have to learn. It takes practice to continuously try to stay and keep yourself motivated. I'm not saying, when I first started CrossFit, there was times where I was like, this sucks. I hate this. I can't do muscle ups. I can't do a handstand push up. And I could have either just been like, you know what? I don't care. I'll be happy just doing dumbbell push presses forever and not worrying about handstand push ups. Or I'll be okay with just doing pull ups and not necessarily worry or care about getting a muscle up. But I didn't, you know what I mean? There was a deep-seated desire within myself that motivated me to want to get better. And the more and more of these things that I found motivation in, the more and more that I actually accomplished those goals, right? It was more like, oh, I did that. Let me put that in my pocket. What's next? Let's try this. Let's try handstand walks. Oh, got that. Put that in my pocket. Mm-hmm. And the more and more that I was accomplishing these new challenges in my life, it also just added to the motivation intrinsically within myself to be like, all right, let's see, what else can I do? And I learned over time that I can actually do more than I think. And so anytime there's something new that pops up that I'm like, oh, maybe I want to try that. I don't know, that seems really, really hard. It gives me more motivation to try it because I have proved in the past to myself that I can do those things. So like, I don't know if anyone's been following me on Instagram. I finally bought myself one of those balancing boards, those balance boards where you're on like a little roller and then you have like a surfboard type of thing and then you're supposed to balance on it. This is kind of cool. You're supposed to balance on a board like you're surfing or skateboarding. I've been wanting to buy one of those for like over a year and a half. And so I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm not doing anything. Let's try that.
Yeah.
And the first time I tried it, I was actually able to get it pretty easily. Now I'm like, all right, let me try doing some different tricks and different things. And it's cool because it's like, once I figure something out, I'm like, all right, what's next? So I think the opposite can happen if you are the type of person that if you experience more failure than a success, you can tell yourself like, oh, I don't want to do that because, I tried this before and I couldn't get it. So then, and so you quit. Yeah. So I think the opposite can happen though, because if you start to experience more failures than successes, you can easily get discouraged. But what I would say to you is, I mean, everybody gets to a point in their lives where that happens. It doesn't mean that you should just give up and not try. I think if anything, that should give you more drive to be like, screw it, I'm going to keep trying until I get it. Or accept the fact that maybe the goal that you were trying to attain was maybe too far reaching and maybe you need to take it down a notch and try, level 1 instead of trying to do level 3. Because I see a lot of people trying to be like, I want to get kipping chest to bars. I'm like, well, can you do a strict pull-up? No. I'm like, well, maybe the problem isn't that you can't do strict chest to bars. Or sorry, maybe the problem isn't that you suck. Maybe it's the problem is that you're reaching too high, right? Yeah. So instead of trying to get a kipping chest to bar, maybe let's try to get a strict pull-up first, right? And then once you get a strict pull-up, well, then maybe, okay, I got strict pull-ups. Maybe I can try kipping pull-ups, right? Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I got kipping pull-ups. I can do like 10 in a row. Like maybe let's try, see if I can get a strict chest to bar, right? And then you kind of go along that progression. And by the time you know it, like you're doing muscle ups, right? So I guess the lesson that I'm trying to say there is like, you got to find the motivation within yourself, right? Yeah. But you can't set the goals too high, right? You got to start with small goals, right? Take one step forward, right? Accomplish that goal, then take another step, then take another step, and take another step. I'm really liking
this. Look at you, you're even going stepping out of the frame.
See past the screen, right? And at some point, when you look back 5 years from now, maybe, you'll be like, man, look at all the stuff that I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People like look at me. I've been doing CrossFit for like 11 years, and they're like, man, Warren's really good at muscle ups. I've been doing CrossFit for 11 years. 5 or 6 years ago, I was not that good at muscle ups, right? Mm-hmm. But I progressed slowly, and eventually I got myself there. And now, you know, I've set the tone that like, yeah, I can accomplish some stuff. You know what I mean? And so it just takes time, and you got to have a good game plan. You can't set, you know, too high of a goal.
And the thing that might even resonate a little.
We really go off tangents. I'm sorry.
No, but here's the thing. But then it leads me into this though, because then you can take a look at that, and we don't have access. Okay, regardless of Zoom and our Zoom classes, which are awesome, and that a lot of gyms and coaches are doing lately, you're stuck with yourself to train, which means you're not sitting there, at least I'm not, worrying about, oh, Allie's next to me beating me in this workout, I need to do this, this, and this, or Allie can do this, or Allison can do this, and I can't do that yet, et cetera, et cetera. You can only focus on your effort for that day that you're going to give in, and you are your own competition during this time, which I think is awesome, because not only are you growing mentally out of that, but physically as well, and you're gauging your progress on your own individual effort, not what someone is doing next to you. And the motivation from that too, like you were saying, it's like, where are we finding this motivation? Where are we finding this why? It all comes down to you. At the end of the day, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, but at the end of the day, someone just said this the other day, and he was actually a comedian, because I listen to a lot of comedian podcasts, but at the end of the day, no matter where you go, you take you with you. It doesn't matter who's next to you or whatever, you're taking you with you, and you are your competition, you are your motivation. Who are you as a person at the end of the day, and what effort are you going to put in? So that's good. I like that.
That actually brings up a point that I was thinking about the other day. I wonder how many of the people who rely on the whiteboard for motivation are actually working out right now.
Absolutely.
Continuously and consistently, right? Because I think the people who are doing just fine, that are motivated to work out each and every day, that are on the Zoom WODs consistently, and I know who you guys are because I see you guys on the Zoom WODs. So shout out to the people that are always on there. I'll just say name a few. Elisa, Lila, Joni,
Genesee,
Tim, Genesee, anyone else? Lexi, Darby, I see on there once in a while. Oh, Jeff and Betty. Like, I see all these people, Lorena, like the people that I'm seeing on there consistently. I know these people don't care about the whiteboard. These are the people that have a motivation that comes from within. Yes. And I'm sure that the people that, you know, maybe that focus more on the whiteboard, right, then might be having a harder time, because now there is no whiteboard. There isn't this, I'm working out and these people see me, these people see my score. So they've lost the motivation. So, and that brings back to this whole point that this motivation has to come from in here. It comes back to even our first episode, right? Like, what is your why? Yeah. Like, if your why was something outside of you, that's probably not a good why. The why has to be something inside of you that drives you to be a better person, and it can't be dependent on something else or some external factor. It has to be in here. I'm beating my chest a lot.
And don't interpret that the wrong way, because we all still use a healthy amount of competition to continue that motivation. We all use the whiteboard or those outside goals and those things that we look at to help motivate us. But like you said, if you peel back every layer of that onion and you look at the root cause, whether you're motivated by the whiteboard or not, if you took the time to peel back those layers, I would put all of my money that I don't have on the fact that deep root, that deep cause or that deep why has much more to do with you than I think that you realize. Nicole and I were talking about this morning when she called me and we did our little a morning dance routine today. And she was saying how she hadn't been to the gym in a while or hadn't worked out. And then she finally had access to a barbell and she was doing a Metcon yesterday. And she was telling me this morning, she's like, Tori, it's just who I am. Like this piece was missing and it's just who I am. It has nothing to do with me wanting to be fit or ripped or whatever. She goes, it's more of a mental and emotional thing for me now than actually being physical. And she goes, and oh my God, I went to the gym and I just felt so much better because she's like, I was able to just express myself in the way that I've always needed to express myself. And that's, most of us, it's just who we are. This is just who I am. This is my routine. This is my my habits and it's my outlet. And so she's like, I was just finally able to be me, so that was huge too.
Yeah, for sure. You got another one?
Another one, what?
Another lesson.
Another lesson. Oh dude, that I'm like sweating. That was deep. I feel like I have a lot of like, there's just things that are like randomly popping up throughout the day for me.
But your big ones.
Huh?
The big ones.
The big one that I've referenced a couple times, and we're kind of backing off the exercise train, I guess, is my biggest hope for all of this is the overlying lesson of just learning to respect and love one another. It's times like these and trauma or traumatic times in general always bring out the best and worst in people. I even myself noticed this too. And I remember I hit you up like 3 weeks ago or something. And I sent something to you and you're like, hey, like take a step back, like worry about yourself type of thing. And I was like, dude, he's right. Like I needed to kind of take a step back. And with all the opposing views about what's right and what's wrong, at the end of the day, it's just, for me, it's like a belief system. And people are so quick to shame and judge and put these negative things on other people for what they're deciding to do in regards to their health or their exercise or how they're just getting through it. And the big lesson for me is learning to not shame and judge those other people and respect their boundaries and their space and what they need to do to heal, because what they need to do to heal is different than how I need to heal. And it doesn't make either one right or wrong. It's just respecting those individual views and knowing that it's okay. I've just experienced some personal things, from even loved ones where it's a violation of my personal space and my choice emotionally and physically. And I'm like, man, like I wouldn't do that to someone else, So I think at the end of the day, it's this lesson of just respecting people as people and individuals, and respecting their actions and the choices that they're taking for their own health and well-being and not harming anyone else in the process, like emotionally or mentally too. So
yeah,
that's a huge one for me.
I think this whole idea of other people going through the same thing is can easily get lost upon other people because we're still like, these people are still in the weeds, right? But I think the one thing that we can't forget is that we're all, like, nobody is exempt from this. Like the entire world is going through this. So to think that your struggle is only your struggle, I mean, like, get your head out of your B-U-T-T and like realize that like everybody's going through something. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm worried about money. hello, everybody's worried about money right now. You know what I mean? Like everybody's going through it. So I personally find comfort in that fact that I'm not the only one that's worrying about this right now. So
Yes.
if I'm not the only one, then that means that, do I think that a billion people are going to be homeless and on the streets and going to have and be worse off than they are before this? I'm like, no, I don't think that that's going to happen at all. I think that I think the world is finally realizing that like we're going to need to lean on each other way more than we have in the past. I think that's, I'm segueing into my next point. I think one of the biggest lessons that I'm seeing from this is like, I think one of the things we need to realize as a society is that what was working before, or what was happening before, wasn't really working. And that when we get out of this thing, there's going to be a lot of things that will probably need to change in order for us to work together more effectively.
Yeah.
And it comes down to me, for me, to be honest, to this whole idea of community.
Yeah.
Because I think what I have experienced over the last, especially week and a half, because my birthday, I turned 40 last Tuesday.
Woo-hoo.
And when, honestly, I was a little bit, a little sad that I was spending my 40th birthday in isolation.
Yeah.
Granted, I was going to be with my family, which is, the most important thing, but it wasn't at all how I envisioned spending my 40th birthday. And because it was amplified by the fact that I haven't really been talking to many people, right? Or haven't been seeing a lot of people, but like on my birthday, the outpouring of love that I got from so many people, wishing me happy birthday, supporting me and the gym, saying like, hey, we're going to get through this, or just even in the amount of people that said, hey, don't cancel my membership. Like keep charging me. Like There's been more people than not that have actually done that. And it's, allowed me to keep the gym afloat. And it comes back to this whole idea of community and really loving on the people in your life and your community from a selfless position or selfless place, not necessarily caring what you're going to get back in return immediately or financially, right?
Yeah.
But just doing it from this place of like, I just want to help. I just want to make people's lives better. I want to just have people leave the gym feeling a little bit better or a little bit more prepared for their life than when they entered. And that's honestly what I've tried to focus on over the last year and a half specifically.
Yeah.
And to see how now that community that I have invested a lot of myself into is paying me back, to be honest, is probably the most wonderful thing I've experienced.
Absolutely.
In my 40 years, you know what I mean? Because I never expected this, you know what I mean? I was really like dreading, like, what's going to happen? Like, are people going to cancel? How many people are going to cancel the memberships? And I was honestly thinking the worst. I was thinking that like, all right, this is going to be bad. But it honestly hasn't been as bad as I dreaded. And because of that, I can see kind of this, made it easier to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's reinforced this whole idea of community is everything. And I'm not even just talking about tribe community. I'm just thinking about like whatever community you are a part of, like you need to love on that community harder than you've ever loved before when you come out of this. Because, I was talking to Joni about this yesterday, or a couple of days ago. Joni Hodgkin, shout out Joni.
Hi, Joni.
And she was saying that like, I don't think I could have gotten through the last 4 weeks if it weren't for Tribe.
Yeah.
And in turn, because, she's felt such a support from Tribe and the Tribe community, now she has been able to in turn be that person or that light to other people in her life. And I'm like, man, that's exactly it right there. This is the thing that I have been trying to instill or trying to just communicate to everybody at Tribe is that like, when I say like, you got to extend this beyond the doors of the gym, like this is what I mean. Like you got to be that light. Cause what we got here in Tribe is really, really special. And times like this are showing me just how special it is. And like, we're selfish. We would be selfish in thinking that this is something that we got to keep within our doors. No, man, we got to share it with everybody. Like take this light and shine it somewhere else and grow another community somewhere else. I'm not saying leave Tribe, but I'm saying
don't get too crazy now.
Don't get too crazy now, but you know what I mean?
No, for sure. And one of my favorite quotes, and I don't remember where I've heard it. This is just the story of my life. I'm like, I heard this from somewhere and I don't know where it came from, but it's really good and I use it all the time. That each individual, like your suffering is not special. And this is the harsh realization that your suffering isn't special. And what people like to do, and myself included, I have caught myself in things like this too, where I'm like, when I was in chiropractic school and I would tell my family, I'm like, you have no idea the stresses I go through. You have no idea because this is my suffering and this is what I'm going through and it's harder and worse than yours. And people like to do that because it makes themselves feel validated in their suffering. But this is a primary example of, hey, we're all going through the same thing. The suffering that you're going through is not special. That doesn't give you a gold medal when we're comparing these bad things happening to us. All that matters, like you said, is how you react to that situation and how you spread the love in your community and how you use that to nurture yourself. Because realizing, and you can even relate this to working out, when you and I are doing Fran next to each other, I know you're going just as hard and you're going through some pain just like I'm going through some pain, but we're going to get through it together. We're both going to finish. We're going to cheer each other on. And we know that we're going to come out of it better because of it right next to each other. And like you just said, you apply that suffering in a gym aspect, knowing that you're all taking the same class and knowing that you're all doing the same thing and coming out of it together, that applies to life. And just like you're saying with Joni, it's like she's taking those lessons that she's learning and applying that to her life outside of the gym, outside of CrossFit, outside of functional fitness or whatever. It's those things that help you grow your community. And at the end of the day, that's what you have to support you. We're not all separated. You know what I mean? We're together and there's a reason why we're together. So no, that's huge. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that a lot.
I would like to expound on your suffering is not whatever you said thing.
Special.
Like your suffering, not special. Just to clarify, what she's not saying is that your suffering is not valid, right?
Yeah.
That's totally different than saying like, whatever, bro, I suffered just as hard as you. No,
exactly.
The thing is, everybody suffers in their own way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Some people may suffer from physical ailments. Some suffer from emotional ailments. Some from like financial ailments. Everybody has something that they suffer from.
Yes.
Right? If you think about it, it doesn't mean that your suffering is not valid.
Yes.
Right? It's unique to you, but it doesn't mean that the person going through it isn't feeling it in their own way just as strongly or just as sharply as you're feeling it.
Absolutely.
So I think that is a really good point, is that people, you know, when they say like, you don't understand what I'm going through, I'm like, I might not know exactly what you're going through, but if we want to play that game, I could tell you about some things that I go through that you would never understand either. So I feel like when people say that, it's like one of the worst, like lamest arguments, because it's like, yeah, of course I can't know what you're going through, but I think there is this universal lesson that everyone can learn, is that like how you deal with your suffering and how you approach your suffering as can tell people a lot about who you are. If you're the type of person that anytime something goes wrong in your life, you shut down and you're like, no, don't talk to me. You can't totally understand what I'm going through. Like, leave me alone, or don't talk to me. It's like, okay, fine.
Oh my God.
Right? Did that look really funny on TV?
No, because I don't know where it was this.
Oh, or, right? I'm obviously talking about this two opposite sides of the spectrum. Or you could be the type of person that's like, you know, you suffer and you kind of like sit in the suffering, you experience all of it, but you kind of, try to go through it and not complain and really just try to like, become stronger from it.
Yeah.
Right? There's this whole idea of a refiner's fire, right? Like diamonds go through the refiner's fire. Right? Shout out to Papa. This is from you, Papa Savella. Refiner's fire, and every time they go into the fire, it comes out more pure than it went in.
Yeah.
Right. And every time it goes back into the fire, right, you have to go through that fire and then come back even more pure. Right. That's how we are. That's how humans are. Right. Every time, the only way you're ever going to get better or ever get stronger or, get better or stronger in life is you have to go through the fire. Right. It's why we work out and why we put our bodies through hell in the gym each and every day is because we want to get stronger. We want to be fitter. And you can apply that to life, right?
Yeah.
That if you want to be better at anything in your life, you have to go through the trials and tribulations. You got to step into the fire where it's hot and endure it and not complain while you're doing it, even though I'm not going to lie, I complain a lot when I'm working out. Like but you still do the work.
Yeah.
Right. And appreciate the journey and appreciate the fact that you can actually go through the fire and come out better than you went in.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now. Everybody's doing this right now across the globe. We are sitting in the fire, all of us. This fire is as big as it's ever been. And if you come out of this fire and you haven't learned a dang D-A-N-G, I didn't say the other one, D-A-N-G, if you haven't learned a dang thing, man, you better hurry up because this thing's winding down.
I know. And that's the cool thing. And even though we're all going through the same thing, we're all experiencing it differently, but we're all going through the same fire, but we're all experiencing it differently. Do you know what I mean? And like you were saying, that doesn't mean either one is bad or good, but how are you responding to that individually? And no matter how you do it is okay, but as long as you're responding in a positive way. That's so funny that you said that's what?
Amen, sister.
Amen, sis. Amen, brother. The funny thing about that is that book that I'm reading, maybe you should talk to someone. Again, I'm going to plug it because it's so good. But they were talking about that too, where how you said, I can't understand what you're going through because I am not you. You know what I mean? Even though we're going through the same fire, I can't sit here and tell you I understand what you're going through because you are going through it differently than I am, even though it's the same fire. But what I can do is say, hey, I know how that feels. You know what I mean? I felt that same thing. And how can we help each other to get through it? You know what I mean? Because I felt that before from a different stimulus, but I don't understand what you're going through, but I felt that in an empathetic? Yeah, experiencing empathy.
Empathize.
Doing it in an empathetic way.
Sounds like something you would do if you're a part of a community.
Whoa. Jeez, man.
All right.
I don't know. Anything. This has been really good.
Well, we think it's really good. I don't know what everyone else is going to think.
I don't even care because this is what I needed today. Is I needed to talk to someone like this, and that's why when I told you I wanted to do this recording, I was like, well, let's just go into it. Usually we have an outline and stuff, but I'm like, I'm just going to go into it as a conversation with Warren because we usually have these conversations anyway. But now we're just gonna record it. Okay, but before we kind of like wrap it up, because I know we've almost been talking for an hour, but I want to know, besides your little like waveboard thing, what is one thing that you've been, or that one thing that you've tried, whether you've stuck with it or not? What's one thing that you've tried besides that, or one thing that you've been doing more of? Besides what we've already talked about.
So everybody knows that I'm a Catholic, and the one thing I've never done in my entire life, even though I'm 40 now, is I've never read the Bible all the way through.
Oh.
So shout out to Mike Salvanera because he bought me this awesome Bible. It's called the Great Adventure Bible from Ascension Press.
Hi, Mike.
I'm plugging stuff, but anyway, it's pretty cool. It actually gives you a timeline as how to read the Bible so that it makes sense chronologically, and then it gives you background information on each of the chapters. So it makes it easier to understand.
Nice.
And so, I've been reading the Bible probably at least 3 or 4 days a week. And
that's awesome.
I've actually made a dent. Like if the Bible's like this thick, I've probably gotten that far.
Hey, progress is progress.
A long way to go. But it's cool because I've been learning a lot of lessons, and probably it helps that we just went through Lent and Easter, so it kind of made it more of a real spiritual experience.
Nice.
But you guys can learn more about that on my other podcast.
Yes.
The God Given podcast. Man, I'm just plugging stuff left and right. gdgbn.com.
Link here. Link there.
Link here. I don't know
Love
if I'll
it.
really be able to do that. We'll see.
That's
How about
cool.
you?
I've been learning piano.
Ooh, I saw that. And then you got one-upped by Jaquez.
Yeah, I know.
Jay
So,
Bizzle.
which honestly, maybe I should
And
share
then
that story.
Chris and Natsu. Yeah, you should totally read that. You should. We'll post that story. That's actually really worth.
Okay, and
worthy.
I won't cry. I won't cry, I promise.
This is how awesome our tribe community is. Listen.
Yes. Speaking
Listen.
of,
If you're not listening right now, listen again.
so I started teaching myself, not even teaching myself piano, but just learning songs because I've always wanted to be musical and I'm not musical. And I was never taking lessons. So I started learning piano or on the keyboard. And then I posted on Instagram a song that I was learning. And I'm a big Phantom of the Opera fan because it just reminds me of my grandparents. I won't go into it. It's just something that reminds me of them. And when my grandpa passed away, I actually asked for his Phantom of the Opera shirt that he got when he first went. And so it's just holds a very special place to my heart. So I posted it of me learning Music of the Night, which is one of my favorite songs from that musical. And then like 5 minutes later, Genesee sent me a video and posted it on her Instagram. And it was of her playing beautifully All I Ask of You, which is another song from that musical. And I got misty-eyed and I was like, dude, that's super cool that we're kind of reaching out on the same thing. And she told me how much she loved it too. And then go about my day. And I get a little alert on Instagram.
The tears.
What?
Nothing. I said, here come the tears.
Oh, we're getting there. So then my day goes on and I get an alert from Jay Bassina, Mr. Bassina, and he tags us in his video and he's playing the Phantom of the Opera theme. And I was like, I didn't even know you played piano, Jay. Like, what is even happening? He's crushing it. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Get a little bit more misty-eyed, freaking out. And then a couple hours later, get another tag, another alert. And it's Crystal Anatsu playing her 4th grade flute, Angel of Music from that same musical. And I was sitting in my recliner at home and like getting teary-eyed, and my mom's like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. And I just sat there and I just thought in my head, like, it was so like none of them knew the story of my grandparents or anything like that, but it touched me on such a level of here are these people reaching out, showing me their talents and their passions that who knows when the last time they picked them up. And I learned something about them that I think Crystal had mentioned to me once, that she played flute as a kid, and here she is crushing this song on flute. And I was like, wow, I just got to learn. I know these people from the gym. I know them from weightlifting. I know them from that community. And here they are showcasing these things that they're capable of. And it was just, I was over the moon about it. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Super cool to see. Yeah. That's just a super awesome example of how, I don't know, the community is just super uplifting sometimes, you know?
Oh, for sure. Especially with what's going on. That was awesome.
But let's not skip over the fact that, like, one thing that's emerging from all of this is how, like, ridiculously, insanely multi-talented Jay is, because
What
all of
does
a
he
sudden
not do?
Jay's like an artist and plays the piano, and he is like this awesome Tahitian dancer who is also a awesome teacher, who is also a talented CrossFit coach, who can juggle and do magic and pull quarters out of his ears.
Wait,
and no, I'm just kidding, that last part. All that stuff, other stuff is fake.
Okay, but still, all that, like, who?
But still, like, what else do you have in your bag of tricks, Jay, that you're not showing us? Stop holding back, bro. We know the cat's out of the bag. We know you are super talented. Stop hiding these from us.
Now that you say this, he is
the world must see.
He is the Renaissance man of Tribe.
You are the Renaissance man of Tribe. It's true. We're just gonna call you Renaissance man, for sure.
Oh my gosh, too crazy.
I think that's a good place to end it. That means, Jay, you have to be the next guest and start explaining yourself.
Yes. This is good, Warren.
Oh, this was good, except that the recording, I don't know why did you mute itself?
I have no idea what I did. I'm 30 years old. I don't know how to work these things.
We apologize if the audio for this is not so great, because we tried some new things.
I think it'll
failed,
be more.
But that's not reason to keep trying. Reason not to keep trying.
Whoa.
Ooh, you like how you brought that back?
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we can, maybe we'll do this again. Who knows? But I feel better. I hope Warren feels better. And I got to see your beautiful face, which always makes me feel better. Well,
assuming we're going to be stuck here for another at least month, I mean, we should do another one. And maybe we invite a guest.
Ooh, I'm totally down. Oh, I found our new guest.
The girl in the back with the yellow hair. Yes. Find out who she is, invite her, and let's get her on the podcast.
All right, Warren. It was great seeing you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Miss you,
Talk
Tribe.
to you later. Bye, Tribe.
Peace.
That was wonderful.